The World Cup is officially getting serious with the big one Saturday night under the lights. England versus the unexpected Norway. As always, today we're going to give you our thoughts on the match, our tactical analysis, how we would tweak the team, and as always, giving you our honest score predictions on the match. Let's get straight into it. First and foremost, we've got to talk very briefly about the unbelievable win in Mexico, in the Azteca, and what this means ultimately going ahead in Norway. Reese, we'll come to you first. How are you feeling about the Mexico win, and has it changed your opinion going into this quarter final?
Suppose overall answer to that is no, my opinion hasn't changed. I said to you at the time that, Mexico will not score that third goal. I made that perfectly clear to you and probably about half the pub.
Yeah,
That
you
they
were
weren't going
weirdly
to.
calm,
Yeah.
like weirdly calm.
Well, we did exactly what I expected. Um, Regardless of going down to 10 men or not, putting all men behind the ball and cutting out the main threats, meaning that the ball can only go in one way, and that was to the one player on, who was playing left back, who had to keep crossing it in. Did he really create much? No. Mexico scored two goals, one from a penalty, regardless of your opinion on that. They were one from a penalty and one from quite poor defending from a corner. So overall, there wasn't a huge threat. We tactically shut them out the game. And I expect the game against Norway to be no different really in how we approach it may be a bit different, but in terms of my confidence of this is not going to change. I think what's impressed me the most, if I had one takeaway, was the resilience against Mexico. Outstanding resilience with 10 men in a very, you know, passionate stadium, loud stadium in a game where Mexico, were not afraid to demand more and get quite aggressive. And as you see, it spilled over a couple of times. So it's the resilience for me. I think this is something that the England teams have lacked over the years when it comes to the challenging moments, particularly, whether recently or in the golden generation. So the resilience thing for me is key, and that's got to be a springboard for this next game.
100%. And Jamie, for you, I know like we've both been critical based on when we saw the squad, didn't really fancy England's chances. Has the Mexico win changed your opinion?
Of the chances, no, because I still think my opinion was France and Spain are better than us. So that's why my opinion doesn't change. Now, I did actually in our sort of score predictor thing is I did have us to lose against Mexico because I think our performances haven't been that great. I know it doesn't matter because the whole point is you get through to the next round. And if we go and not play that great and win the tournament, who the hell cares? Really. But look, the Congo game, I wasn't too impressed. Yes, we turned it around, which is good. But let's be honest, I think against some better oppositions, like I say, as France or as Spain, we lose that game. So that was sort of where my head space was, and then being in Mexico, the record Mexico had at that ground was phenomenal. So it was sort of like everything was stacking up, going. It just seems to be a big banana skin. And Mexico hadn't actually conceded up until that point. So they were doing pretty well themselves. But I think it does change on how far England can go. Sort of, I thought we could get to the quarterfinals quite comfortably, and I do think we could beat the Brazil side. So it was the sort of semi-finals was where I was looking at. Now that it's Norway, no disrespect to Norway, but the pressure isn't there as much as it would be against Brazil because Brazil are the five-time world champions, all things like that. It is sort of an added pressure going. We must beat this big team. Now it's playing Norway. It's right. We're favourites. We need to win. It's. I think there's a different mental game going into it. So
Yeah.
we could get further than possibly I thought we could, but we got to watch out for Norway. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's one where I'm more confident than I would be against Brazil, even though I thought Brazil aren't that great. Just because it's like the Real Madrids. When you're in the Champions League, Real Madrid are very good in the Champions League, even though they've been poor everywhere, every other game.
I think just building on that, like I disagree with the terms of the performances because I think we're set up and structured differently, which makes us better. Um, under Gareth Southgate, we beat Panama 6-0, right? Different time, different era. Still didn't win anything. Okay. And this is something I always try to maintain. It doesn't matter about winning by 6-0 as long as you win games. I think we're doing very well. We have to be patient. Our style of play is being patient. Would we be in the situation that we were against Mexico under Southgate? I don't think so. I think we would have won if we would have won 3-2, it'd have been because it'd have been a back and forth kind of game. Um, so I think we're just set up differently, and I think this is why it's critical to our success. I agree when it comes to Argentina, it comes to France, it comes to Spain. The difference with them is they only need one chance. I think we need one or like maybe two before we can find the net. As we saw with Mikel Moreno against Portugal, one chance, once goal. That's the difference. They're capable of finding that ball. We probably will hit the post or hit the bar, and then we need another chance. Um, and luckily for us is we don't have to worry about that as much against Congo, against Mexico, and I don't feel we're going to have to worry about that against Norway.
Yeah, see, I disagree with both of you. To be fair, I think this win against Mexico changes a lot in terms of the belief of the players, the belief in the manager, the belief of most England fans. Because so far, as you both said, the tournament's been underwhelming in terms of performances. But Reece, to your point, doesn't matter. We're in the quarterfinals. You don't need to be overwhelming. We saw it in the Euros. We were absolute embarrassing throughout the entire tournament and got to the final playing poorly. So obviously, we'd love to see us go and slap everyone 5-0, but it's not the reality. But this win against Mexico is and it's not just me saying it, as many people describing it as one of the best England victories pretty much since the World Cup win for so many reasons. There's about 10 different reasons it is. But this for me was a turning point that made me sit up and go, actually, we can win this tournament and we can win it this year. My belief was very much weak squad, few admissions, give Tuchel a bit of time to get used to the players. But if you can go and do that in the way we did it, with 10 men, with all the odds against us, everything else against us, and then you also add in the fact we're playing Norway, the fact we could face an Argentina side who are struggling against Egypt and Cape Verde, you'd back us in a coin, like a finals a coin flip. I don't care whether it's France, Spain, whoever. So I think I'm not saying we're going to win it, but I'm saying there is more belief now, in my opinion, that we can actually go the distance and at least get to the final and give someone a go. Um, so let's move on to Norway. First and foremost, I think for me the big thing that stood out against Brazil, other than being unbelievably clinical, as Haaland always is, was the possession stats. Norway are relative minnows, and that's no disrespect. Most people, I think, were expecting Brazil to qualify, even though, yes, they've not been great. But 66% possession by Norway. They dominated the ball, they took control of the game, and they were clinical. So is this a Norway side? Like most teams we play who are underdogs, we're going to dominate possession. But could we actually be looking at a game against Norway where they have more possession and we almost have to be clinical?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter about how much you have of the ball, it's what you do with it. How many teams have 70% of the possession, don't put the ball in the back of the net. We This is a battle of obviously arguably the two best centre forwards in the world. But I agree. I think we've got the quality to be clinical. Norway know they probably need the ball and create chances. I think we are better overall. Um, I felt Norway would beat Brazil because I think their narrow style of play was going to frustrate Brazil a lot, who, probably wouldn't handle that, and their midfield wasn't particularly strong. Norway worked well as a collective unit. There's no doubt. But me overall, I think this is where our midfield is just going to have to be. Don't worry about not having the ball. Just stop the balls coming in and stop them coming in to who up front. Okay. Keep Haaland out of the box. Easier said than done, but Konza has matched him before and he'll match him again. You cut it from the head. And I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you solve Haaland, you solve 80% of the threat. And look, Ødegaard had a great game. Noosa, although he got subbed off, Noosa is a threat. We've seen him score a banger already. So it's not just Haaland's the only good player. But I think, look, if you stop Haaland, we can be fairly confident that if we put 2 goals in against Norway, we're going to go through. That's the way I'm looking at it. Score 2, they'll probably score 1. Maybe I'm giving my score prediction away too early, but you know, if 2 goals, in my opinion, will be enough to get us through, is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, maybe they will score, but if you keep Haaland quiet, they ain't. I don't know. Anyone's capable of scoring a banger, right? But I do think that's the obvious threat. But if we solve that, we will probably go through.
Yeah, I don't expect many changes from either side in this game. Okay, the only position is the position we've had the biggest problem with is right back. I expect Reece James to be playing there. It's they might try and exploit that, Norway, because they might go, look, they've had all sorts of problems down here. Go for it, especially if Reece James might not be 100%. So Noosa will exploit that. Ødegaard as well. I think I've butchered his name there, but he'll look to exploit that. His pass, for Haaland was absolutely fantastic. Let's not forget. So it's it's difficult because yes, I agree they've got Ødegaard who can pass, so cut that out. Don't allow early crosses, don't allow quick transitions, don't allow balls over the top, don't allow 1v1 situations. Easier said than done. Keep Haaland out the box, which they're more than capable of doing. Sorloth will probably start as well, and he's a physical specimen on his own. He knows how to head a ball, but he's not going to be effective if you stop, the passes to him. So it's cutting that out. We don't need the ball. We're going to have a similar approach like we are, I think, against all the teams we've played so far. Let them have it and then hit them on the counter. We're going to be more aggressive in the counter, though, because that's where we're going to shine. And I feel that's where we can exploit their weaknesses.
Well, yeah, it worked quite well on the counter, to be honest, against Mexico. And I think they had more shot. Well, obviously, they had more shots against 10 men, but I don't know. I'm kind of thinking in most games, I know you said possession doesn't matter, but it kind of does. Like most big teams versus lesser opposition in most games will have more possession. So I think that is noteworthy that they had 2/3 of the ball against a team like Brazil, who traditionally are great on the ball. So I think that's something we've got to be careful of. Like,
But
for me,
we only had 34% against Mexico. I know we had 10 men for
that's more
some of
situation.
it, but it means we can play that way. We can allow them to have the ball and then counter in that way. I don't think it's a problem. I think it actually suits Tuchel a bit more than sort of say what it would have been under Southgate. I think that suits him. He doesn't mind being sort of using the counter attack, being the sort of underdog, not as such as the teams, but as in the amount of possession you have on the ball on there. So I wouldn't be worried too much about that. But it's the obvious, isn't it, with this, looking at Norway? If you give Haaland 3 or 4 shots, that the back of the net will be hit. And as much as you want to go, oh yeah, let him have a quiet game, he will have a quiet game. I'll tell you that now. He will have a quiet game, but can still score 2. Again, if you watch the Brazil goal, the first one, where he wins the header, there's a clip on TikTok of him going, Haaland doesn't look like he's caring. Doesn't look like he's caring. 1 run, goal. That's it. And as a defender, there's not much you can do about that because you're watching him, the ball comes in, and his awareness of positioning is elite. It is, I would say, it is the best in the world over any striker. Whether you prefer a Kane and Mbappe or these other players, his is so elite, and it's like best of all time. That's how elite his positioning is, and that's where you've got to watch him. And unfortunately, there is a problem with our defence, I think. You've got Gay, not very quick. Stones, not very quick. Konza, probably quicker than them two, not that quick. So if that ball is played sort of over the top or through the channel, and Haaland's running onto it, we're preying on a Pickford save or Haaland falling over his own 2 feet. That's the problem. So that's where us having less of the ball can actually benefit us, because that means we'll sit back a little bit more. If we've got, if we're sitting across our own box, there isn't that amount of space for Haaland to run into. So that can benefit us from that in the tactical sort of point of, don't worry that we don't have the possession, as long as our positioning is right. But like I said, Haaland will go quiet. I reckon for 87 minutes of this game, people are going, is Haaland even on the pitch? That's exactly what happens. Happens nearly every week. You see the stats in all the Premier League games. Oh, Haaland had 4 touches in the first half. Guess what? He scored a hat-trick in the second. Who cares? So he's doing his job. So that's where you've got to really focus. I know you mentioned Reece. He's had a poor tournament, and that's because he's out of position. And unfortunately for him, the person in his position is one of the best strikers in world football. So I wouldn't be too worried about him, but I would be worried about the ball sort of coming over the top, sort of from across and at the back post, where he might have drifted in a bit inside, where it's sort of in between the centre-back and the left-back. That's where the communication's got to be key to know he's coming over. Because if he's unaware and he's trying to win a header, he will get a goal.
He's physical, Sorloth, right?
Yeah,
I mean, both strikers are. That's what he's going to be on for. Like you said, is if there's anything that's going to unsettle us, it's them two causing havoc. We know Haaland can run, but the reality is his job is stay there, because they've got the players who can pass the ball, and Haaland is exactly what a striker should be, regardless of what era of football, someone who puts the ball in the back of the net. I agree. He only needs 1 touch, 1 goal. He proved it even against Brazil, with his goals. So he has scored 1 goal outside the box in this tournament. Okay. Harry Kane has scored none. So, but different players in this element of how we're going to approach the game. We just need to stop the balls going to him. Haaland's not going to do all the running around trying to get the ball like what Ronaldo might do or what Messi does. So it's cutting that supply to him. I think target Ødegaard. I think when big moments happen, I think Ødegaard's head drops. Confidence-wise, that's not me trying to disrespect him in any way. I've seen that before. And I think when it comes to those crucial moments, he does not deliver. It's the wingers in Noosa and Shooter up who are going to be, a bit of a pickle, to be honest. That's where we got to stop them. But I think the best way to stop them is, have that midfield, get it early, boom, done. We don't need the ball. We don't need it. They need it. That's the difference for me.
Yeah. I think I'm less concerned. If James is fit, I'm less concerned about Noosa. But I think Ødegaard is the one who we know has the quality on his day. And against Brazil, he had a lot of space on the ball, and he was a problem. I think he had a couple big chances as well. So, yes, there's multiple threats. I think what's interesting and a bit concerning to your point, Jamie, about around the positioning is he wasn't. He looked like he wasn't asked for that first goal, and he was going toe to toe with Gabriel, who is one of the best aerial defenders in the Premier League, possibly the world, and he absolutely bullied him. Like this, so we can sit here and say we need to do this, we need to do that, but it's almost, can we just cut off the supply in the first place? Because it doesn't matter who's against him. Ultimately, you ain't winning a header. You're going to have to foul him and then maybe give away a penalty, etc., etc.
Totally agree. That's where I said, if he has 4 shots, one of them will be in the back of the net.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can't go with how to stop Haaland. It is how to stop other people. It just is, because Haaland scores as well a complete range of goals. You've seen his foot up above his head for goals that he's scoring. The headers, like the one against Gabriel, fantastic. You've seen him on the ball, and he's putting it in the back of the net with his left foot, right foot. He will put it in any other way. So the supply is the main concern. That really is what it comes down to. I've been watching Haaland at City, and honestly, there's not much you can do. You're thinking, as a defender, what can you do when you've kept him quiet for 89 minutes, and then oh, you've lost him for half a yard, not even like a full yard, half a yard, and it's in the back of the net. And it's not like you can go, right, let's get physical, because he's an absolute unit. And he can embarrass you, like, he absolutely dunked on Gabriel for it, which was great for my point of view, because I find that hilarious. But it's also been this whole talk before the game of, oh, this rivalry between Gabriel and Haaland, Gabriel and Haaland. Haaland scored in every game he's played against Gabriel, I believe, apart from one, and we City won 2-0 in the game. It's funny in that sort of way for it. I do have to say though, if Norway do go through, and are in the final for the sort of, and they beat Argentina or whoever, was it Switzerland? The other round, yeah, beat that in the final. I will be shamelessly supporting Haaland for the Ballon d'Or. So I'm in a slightly. I've seen a lot of City fans say we're in a half win-win. We'd rather England go through. Don't get me wrong, but then if England do go out, we're going to be shameless about how much we're pushing Haaland's PR, because he's getting a lot of PR at the moment, and we're just going to absolutely add to that. So watch out if if Norway go through.
Well, let's hope that PR campaign ends in disaster. Tactically, then, Jamie, I know you've mentioned one point. In terms of changes, I guess we'd make. I don't think formation-wise will change anything personally. What I think is quite interesting and gives me a little bit more confidence is the fact that theoretically 3 of our back 4 play in the same team as Haaland. Therefore, we'll know a few of, and again, it may be hypothetical, but know him better than anyone else. I.e., they're with him day to day. They see his little runs. They'll know a bit more inside his head than most people will. One, does that give us an advantage? And 2, would you go O'Reilly, Stones, and Gurhey as the 3 starting because of that?
No, not for that reason. If you are going to start that, I don't have a problem with that being 3 of the back 4, but I don't think it should be because they know Haaland. Because that it doesn't matter. I really don't think it matters. Like you said, you know Haaland, how he works slightly. He'll know how you work. So it is the sort of back and forth where I think it just cancels each other out. It doesn't matter. It's sort of like if Stones is on the ball, Haaland might press even less. I'm not saying he's a massive presser anyway. Might press even less because he knows Stones is just going to completely easily walk past him and play the sort of 5-10 yard ball to completely put him out of the game. I don't think it really matters in that aspect. I would be surprised if Konza doesn't start. Don't think he hasn't started any of the games. I don't believe so, and I think he will be starting. And then I would say you play the player who is better at headering defensively, and I think that would be Mark Gahey currently. I think if you ask me this, sort of when Stones was more in his prime, I would back him, but. Yeah, I reckon it will be Gahey and Konza as the 2 centre-backs. I think it will be O'Reilly. I'd be surprised if he's dropped as well. And he might actually benefit from Sorloth because he's not an out-and-out winger. He's going to tuck in and that's going to give him some more space because he's going to want to come up and go inside anyway. And I think that helps him not have to worry about a proper winger on that. So I think that could benefit him there. So I'd be very surprised if he's dropped. The right back situation is, I don't know. If James is fit, he plays. But if he's not fully fit, I wouldn't play him because you're playing against a quick winger. If he was playing Sorloth, if Sorloth was on that side, then actually you can risk it a bit, I think. But against a winger like Nusa,
yeah,
would not put a. I wouldn't put a 70% Reece James in. I just think it's too risky and we're too far in the tournament to be taking big risks like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got risks already, haven't we? I mean, was it James, Rice, and Gill trained separately, didn't they? Normally, that's a precaution thing, right? There's no point having them being tackled in a training session, which means they're going to have to be rotated to avoid any more issues. And it determines, I suppose it depends how the game goes, really.
Yeah. One final point before we move on to score predictions is the yellow card situation. So, unless I'm mistaken, Kane, Bellingham, and Rice are all on yellow cards. So, I'm pretty sure if they then get booked in this game, they would then miss the semi-final. So
Well,
that is,
unless we get Trump to give him a call, Trump can do some things. Now USA are out, he's not going to be too bothered.
yeah,
So yeah,
special
maybe get him in
relationship.
there. But otherwise, yes, you're right on that. The one the one I'm worried about is Bellingham. I think he could so easily get booked for going to an argument with a referee. I, Kane as captain can get away with that sort of bookings, and I think Rice will. I think that they will sort of say about it, going, Anderson's got to make them big tackles
Yeah.
rather than Rice. So I think you can cover the Rice one. Kane, I think will be fine. It's Bellingham that I'm a bit worried about, just because I know he can get hot-headed, and that can just easily the card can come out so quickly just for being a bit hot-headed.
This is where like Norway can exploit put pressure on all three. The reality is you would expect these three professionals to have very sensible heads with this in mind, knowing that they're a card away. Harry Kane, I wouldn't look too much into that because I think his was just disagreeing with the ref or arguing with the ref. If your centre forward's on 5 yellow cards, there's something wrong with your centre forward. Um, Rice can't be drawn into silly tackles. But I think with their midfield, he's not going to do that. I don't see him sliding in. Norway's, Ødegaard's a very good passer at a ball. But you don't need to go and slide tackle on him, do you? Um, it's just closing him down, I'd say, more than anything. Bellingham, I agree. I think Bellingham knows, though. I think he's so explosive and so passionate. He just needs to keep that cool head. Don't let them players wind him up. I don't see Norway players doing that, but tactically,
No.
this is going to be in their mind, right? Don't wind them up. And I think he's going to sell it. And I think, don't let themselves down over something so silly to get a suspension.
Yeah, I think discipline for me is less of the issue. The issue is if you've got three players holding back on tackles, then you're going to get more chances for Norway because we're holding back and not going for that big tackle. I think that's my concern, particularly with two
One
midfielders.
of them, yeah, I was going to say one of them being Kane is less of a concern.
Yeah,
The two in midfield, I do agree. That's where I do think Anderson's got to be the one making the bigger tackles with it. One thing that is slightly interesting, and you've seen it before, is I've seen this sort of once again on social media talking about Bellingham and Haaland have like a great romance from when they were at Dortmund and things like that. Remember Rooney and Ronaldo at United? They got on so well. And when they're playing for their countries, they're different type of players. They know how to wind each other up. And if Haaland can, I reckon he will try and wind up Bellingham. So that's something you do have to watch out for in things like that. Hopefully, they are going to be completely too far apart for that to happen. But like I've said, you've seen it before. The Rooney Ronaldo one is sort of like you just got to watch out because, like you said about people knowing each other, winding people up's very easy to do. I know how to wind you two up. You probably know how to wind me up. It's things like
yeah,
that can matter when you're thinking about a booking, but it doesn't fully benefit them for that game. It's only if they go through. So
yeah,
it's sort of half and half with that.
yeah. All right, let's move on to our score predictions. As we've all said, I think I sort of gave my current prediction away. We still got a few days left, so I may change my mind a few times, but I do think Norway have earned a lot of respect. I think they do. I don't think they're minnows, as I described them. They've changed a lot. They've come forward a lot. They've got better players, etc., etc. So this is going to be a battle. I, in my head, not just because they're Scandinavian and wear red, but I see similarities to the Denmark game years ago, whereby I think it was a 1-1 normal time, 2-1 extra time, if I'm not mistaken. So I would probably say a 1-1 is my score prediction in 90 minutes, and I hope we win it in extra time. So I'm going to go sort of a 2-1 all in, I guess, or a 1-1, however you want to look at it. But I also wouldn't be stunned if this goes to pens and we get another massive sweat. What do you guys think?
If you're going with ideal sort of situations, I hope Haaland scores three and we win 4-3, so he can win the Golden Boot and he can have the sort of PR sort of stuff. Realistically, though, I could see another 3-2. Um, I think the way that would happen though is if Norway score early, get one quick chance, goal, and then it means we have to go right. We're coming out straight away. It'd be a different one to the way Congo would play because we know they'd still have that threat, and I don't think they would sit back as much. So I would be, yeah, I'm going to go with 3-2 England, but I do think an early goal is needed for that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this is a game we're going to see, I think, play fire v fire, or fire with fire, whatever you want to call it. Look, we've scored 11 goals, conceded five in this tournament. Norway have been just as effective. They've scored, I think, is it 12? Yeah, they've scored 12, but they've conceded nine. So where do the weaknesses lie? In defence. Okay. That's not disrespecting Norway. They are a very, very good side. They're more than just a Haaland team. That needs to be made clear. And we've said this with the players they've got, but they're not going to be able to play like they did against Brazil. That's our strength. And we have more match winners in that side. I think Gordon and Saka, if they start, are going to be key. They've been fantastic in this tournament. Bellingham will also be key. Pretty much the whole team are going to contribute to this. The Mexico game would have given England more belief than ever before. I will go. I was on the fence. I was thinking a 3-2 win for England. I'm going to go 2-1 just because I think we've got that edge over us, and I think when it will come to the moment, that's when we will deliver. So I see it like that. But concerns over defenses on both sides, I think, hopefully makes this an exciting game, but I'm sure I've queued it up for a 0-0.
Seen enough of them already. That is all we got time for. As always, we've had our say. We want to hear from you. You know where to find us. Like, comment, and subscribe.